Hey yo, this is Zika Lives Odysseys in the house. Well, let's talk about the very good city of Vallejo. It's going to be a long time history that we're going to talk about. So it's going to be really nice, and it's going to be have very good stories that we're going to talk about. So all you have to do is just stay awesome, and if you're going to have to read all the good stuff about Vallejo. So it's in the biography, so it says it on the book. It should be in all the way in there. So hope you might enjoy it. It's a lot of history before it becomes like a dangerous city, or the brokest city. This is all that happens before, so here we go. Vallejo is named after the Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo. The famed California general and statesman. The city was founded in 1851 on General Vallejo's Ranchos Sosco to serve as the capital city of California, which is served from 1852 to 53. When the California government moved to the neighboring Venetia, when named in honor of General Vallejo's with his wife Venetia Carnicolo de Vallejo. The following year, in 1854, authorities founded the Mare Island of all shifted which to define Vallejo's economy until the turn of the 21st century. You know, it's it's a lot of days when they showed up. Good old days. So that's when all of the city had been started before. So here's more information from the post-conquest era. So I'm gonna have to give you some more information. Vallejo was declared to become the official state capital, with the government prepared to meet for the first time the following year. In 1852, the legislature convinced that for the first time. Unfortunately, Vallejo didn't follow through with the rebellion with the capital to them to meet in. In 1853, it was again the meeting place for the Legislature Society for the purpose of moving the capital officially to Venetia, which occurred on February 4th, 1853. After only in the month, Venetia is named after Vallejo's wife, Venetia de Vallejo. After the legislature left, the government established a Nassau shipyard on Mare Island, which helped the city overcome the loss due to the presence of the shipyard. Filipinos began to immigrate to Vallejo in the beginning for the first decades of the 20th century. The yard had functioned for over 100 years, finally closing in 1996. Mare Island was been there a lot, so we're just gonna have to check it out and see how much the boats that they've been securing. There is a lot of shipment yards and and delivery stalls, and then boat handling when they had to travel. From San Francisco Ferry or everywhere. That's where it is. It is. It's just been great. Okay, the U.S. government appointed the influential Vallejo as Indian as an agent for Northern California. He also served on the State Constitutional Convention in 1849. Afterward, Vallejo remained active in state politics. The challenges to his last titles around Sonoma eventually left him impoverished and reduced his ranch from 80 to 150,000 acres to a mere 300. He eventually retired from the public life, questioning about the wisdom of his having welcomed the American execution. Constitution of California in the first place. Vallejo died in 1890, but a symbol of the eclipse of California wealth, power, and prestiges. Although the town was named after General Vallejo, the man regarded as the true founder of Vallejo is John Frisbee. After his daughter Theslandia married Frisbee, General Vallejo granted him power to determine the land grant, and it was the Frisbee who hired E.H. Rose, the man who designed the city layout and who named the east and west streets at the states and the north and south streets and after California counties. Well, you could see like where all the streets in downtown and everywhere did they named by like Washington and Oregon or everywhere. That's where they usually had its heads up starts since like the 1850s to 90s when Vallejo was the boomer was a boomer place back then, because this is what happens when the richest cities that they just come out to live in, especially like in apartments and houses a little bit. So Vallejo used to be rich for a little bit before it becomes like a broke city. But in that point, it's a lot of the details that they have to grow in. But Vallejo has never been king the worst city and in the worst community ever. But they never been worst community since like the 60s. This is what happens before when black people grew up into violence. And so that's Hispanics, Latinos too. So you're gonna have to learn a lesson of how they had to deal with it. You know what I mean? Okay, here is the modern era. So I'm gonna have to tell you more. The views of it, and there's a Mare Island Hospital in there, so they built it since for a long time. So this is all that happens before when they started like around like 1854. That's the Mare Island shipyard. You know what I mean? And then and the first naval base they usually built since like 1854. So that's been started before. So here's the modern era. In the early 1900s, Vallejo was home for the Class D minor league baseball team, refers to the local newspaper sometimes as the Giants, and the other times simply as the Vallejos. Pacific Coast League starring the future Chicago White Sox center fielder Pink Bob Bodie played for the Vallejo during the 1908 season, in which the season reached the California State title game. The season was expanded in the early 1920s. Today is home to the Vallejo Admirals of the Independent Pacific Association. It's a long time when Vallejo team when became like a good Admirals when became a professional baseball in Vallejo. It's a long time when they're not associated with baseball, like for a long time. But they started it since like founded in 2013. But that was from the Pacific Association from the league. You know what I mean? So they started since 2013 when they started like every team's when they have to show up, and especially now with the Silverados too, and Sonoma Stompers. Those are the years when they haven't been started for a long time. You know what I mean? Like those are the rest of the Pacifics when they had to play in the team. It's pretty cool because you got baseball and they haven't got any rich places they haven't lived there yet, so it's still gonna be modern and still be big. Okay, so and plus downtown Vallejo retains many of the historic Victorian and craftsman homes. Ooh. Okay, here's the next one. The Zodiac Killer was a serial killer who was active in Northern California during the 1960s. He claimed to have killed 37, but the actual number is unknown. 3 of the murders attributed to the Zodiac Killer took place within the city limits or nearby, but both of the Vallejo Police Department and the San Francisco Police Department investigated of the murders, but they never were able to solve the case. The case was marked inactive in April 2004, but was reopened in March 2007. The Vallejo Police Department website has a manual lab for providing Zodiac crime tips. The case remains open in additional justifications. Well, Zodiac Killer, he's been there for like when he was been a part of the criminal for the whole time. You know what I mean? But I never know who's the name of the guy. But we're trying to figure out who's the responsible the guy that who was he's the murderer of Vallejo. You know, he could be like a white kid or a black dude. You know, so you're gonna have to understand the knowledges for the history, but demographics are urban like back in historian days. You know, and in 1850s there were like used to be like a hundreds or somehow, but so there's 1860s and 1870s, but it could be around like 100 to increase about like 500 or 800. They could be around under those people when Vallejo just started becoming an extension for the whole years as in a city. You know what I mean? So it's a big city, my friend. It's pretty huge when we got the big arm and all over the big populations. Due to the white people, it's a lot. And plus Vallejo has a lot of same old people. They have like a Baptist African church and then all those good instant places you can play around, like all those good shoppings and shit, like Macy's and all those different instant stores they usually have. It's a most prohibitable shoppings when they used to be around, and KV Toys too, and all those old ass stores. They used to have like professional ones, but it's been there. But theaters, they built in Vallejo for like in the 20th century. Like they didn't since like 1930s. But that was the first big Vallejo theater that was been grown. You know what I mean? A lot of people would drive and then get busy around in the theater because it's a big theater I ever seen. It's more huge than Napa because Napa Syndrome is like so small and so categorized and didn't capture anything about those good instant movies they come out. But they only have theaters and IMAX that can grow together because at Vallejo it's all like the populations are just seems a little bit different than when they have there so far. And here's the scoop: the 1880s they have a population of like 5,987. In 1890 was 6,300. And then 1900s are almost like 8,000, but it's a 7,965. And then plus the 1810s is about 11,340. And 1920s is about 21,707. And 16,172 was in 1930s. They grow a lot. They grow a lot of big numbers before, so it looks like it's better than before. 1940s about like 20,072. That they grew a lot, like much better. And then 1950s is about the 26,038. They grew a lot. And then, well, there was a lot of impact due to like Hispanics, Latinos. They grew up, so that's good. But I never seen the huge impact that was been growth between like any type of legs and any type of people. They're growing in about those racist people they're racing. It's just people. We the people. We have the raza. You know what I mean? Same old people over and over. And in 1960s is about 60,000 people. They double up more than Napa because and Napa is so small. And then in 1970s about 71,000. They have a lot same old people they were clashed in. And they never had a fairgrounds for a long time. Like in Vallejo's, it used to be the richest city for a long time. They never been rich since like the 1960s to 80s before they bought the Six Flags in the 90s. It's pretty crazy. And in the 80s it was like 80,000, and then 90s is about like 109,000, and then 2000s about the 116,000, and then 2010s about 115,000, and then in 2020s they increased about like 126,000. But the way turned out great but they turned out grateful when it increased a little bit more. But between like 2000 to 2010s, it's all about like the murders in Vallejo. The murders are still unknown because they've been had to go to jail or somehow. Pretty crazy. Plus civil rights, like people who were affected between Bloods and Crips, Sureños and Norteños, they have the highest peak I ever seen. The highest peak I ever done in Vallejo. It's all that matters. Like people talking about like the same old demographics like over and over, and then the demographics are they're acting crazy. Right now the Vallejo is the most diverse city I ever seen today, and the brokest city, because Vallejo needs to figure it out to sell off the homes and sell off all their stores. It's gonna be a tough change because, especially Coles too. They're gonna try to they're trying to figure it out. Because Vallejo used to be the richest city before becoming the brokest city. That city never been broke since the 2013. And then they still go on and then continuously because they spend too much money for all those housings. They spend too much money for all those good sanitation places and all that stuff, but the problem is Vallejo keep rising all those populations, and the rest of the housings they're gonna have to increase. Vallejo keep using all those housings, and the rest of it they're just been cleared off going on. Vallejo used to have like a biggest golf course I ever seen, like when that Vallejo was so rich for and puny, But it's not that bad, but Vallejo's never been rich since like the 1950s to 90s. You know what I mean? It's been a long time when Vallejo like has the good corporate with the money with populations and housings and stuff. It's so obnoxious. It's so grateful because in Vallejo is so grateful because they have like the future of the climates of the rich for houses and commercials and industrials. They grow a lot, but they did much better than Benicia because like if all you see like Benicia just growing like observing for all those good instant places, you know. Six Flags is the only place that they have, and then the radio stations like those couple of them they have there too, and then Vallejo City Unified School District they have some very good schools so far. So that's the only one they have, and then they have the Costco. So plus they have the Mayor Corporation, California Maritime Economy, Toronto University, California. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? Everywhere is just always like a big city, there's too many houses when they live in and live out of all those awesome places. It's pretty amazing, when they have like a good climate changes that they had to live in part there. It's amazing. Well, and plus there's more for arts and cultures, like the History Bank of Italy. That's where like a Vallejo used to be built like for a long time too. It's a long time when they started up. Pretty cool though. And then there was a shooting of Willie McCoy and Sean Monderosa. It was pretty bad before when they were having a run of Vallejo. Yeah, it was pretty crazy when they started like all those homicides when they killed 19 people by the police, which is between 2010 to 20. But that was pretty bad though. But But instead of like a defund the police, it was the different issue, which is the reform the police. Vallejo was about reform the police. So that happened before when they had started it, all those the gangs and then the rest of the people. They just need to hold it off from the issue. You know what I mean? And in universities and college, they got the California Maritime Academy, and then Solano Community College, and then Touro University, California. Well, that's the only ones they have. Vallejo High School, Jesse Bethel High School. But then they have private schools like San Catherine of Sierra School, Starting Gate School, St. Patrick St. Vincent High School. you know, it's pretty cool. Like Vallejo has some very good instant places they can live around, like all those very good schools and very good values. They save a lot when they become like a rich city. It's a great piece. I just don't see the media that was been growing up like Cartoon Network's franchise, The Gumball, The Adventures of World of Gumball. They usually see something in all real locations of Vallejo, but it looks pretty cool. If you can check it out on Cartoon Network, it might be really cool to watch it. And they have 2 radio stations there, and there's Vallejo Times Herald, so that's in there too. And then there's so many athletes and artists that were in there too, like the ones like named Ted Aberrock, C.J. Anderson, Brendan Armstrong. Who else is in there? Dick Bass, Javid Best, Jabari Bird, Pink Brody, Bobby Brooks, Bill Buckner, Willie Cajon, Quan Chinhan, Tyler Cravey, Joey Chestnut, Natalie Cotlin, Warkoff, Thomas the Clown, Mike Felder, Aji Garrido, Jeff Gordon, Damon Hollins, Fulton Constandall, Tony Longwattmeyer, Tug McGraw, Mike Merriweather, Mark Munoz, Don Marcus Nelson, Rashad Ross, CC Sabathia, Sammy Strother, Joe Taffeet, Bart Williams. And plus, there's going to be musicians too, so I'm going to have to tell you them right now and see some more. So I'm going to have to check it out, all the good rap stars and singers that are in there too. So let's see who's the real one. So let's check it out. It's called They Have, including Be Legit, Baby Bash, Silly Cell, Kung Fung Sean, DJ D-Reg, Droopy, E40, Funky Aztecs, Her, Johnny Otis, J Diggs, Kyrie, Larry June, Little Bruce, Mac Dre, Mac Mall, The Moosey, Norma Taraga, Into Deep, Nefta Pharaoh, One Voice, Paul Foster, Rick Daddy, Roy Rogers, Sleep Dank, Sly Stone, Sabinari XC, RB, Sugar T, The Click, Turf Talk, Yan Lei, and last but not least, Dubby. Well, those are all those rap stars and singers. They're here in Vallejo. So, just to be honest, there is a lot of everywhere. All those good rap stars that I've ever seen so far. And some rap stars that can be dangerous. Like in the whole times in the WBC. Pretty crazy though, because it's a lot of people they're just having a lot of contempt to every people. They're gonna have to see all the great musicians to raise their eternity, and raise all those their charities and raise their founders of Vallejo. There is a lot of there's a lot of instant views there. Not coming in our outreach to all the values, the money, the media, and everything, you know? But it's pretty crazy, you know? There is a lot of, like, a biggest life that could happen affected around, like, in a big life that you live in Vallejo, you know? If you ever live in Vallejo, there's a lot of violent crimes that can be around like in a whole time. But it's a richest city since the 70s to 90s. But they bought the Mare Island, USA, so that's been going on. So when they go before the Six Flags Marine World and Discovery Kingdom, that's all the developments when Africa for USA just a bit have it took over the develop like back in the days. You know what I mean? It's been like the long time when they have like every single people they have been working together. And there's a lot of employees lately, so there is a lot of awesome people they're taking over to. Modern World Africa USA was the only place that was been there for like since the 90s. And that's been there from the early history when they started since 1968. And before that, they increased like all those people there have been to build as Six Flags to, so they became like without family friendly and without the individual places, you know. It's all, you know, Vallejo's all about class even though in GC City, you know. But that city used to be family for like a pretty much a long time, you know. You know, it's hard to go through all those. And plus, they used to have baby boomers and silent generation people that were been part of the party for a long time. You know what I mean? They've been there in the Vallejo for the whole reach times. You know, it's a lot of years that have been coming out so far. You know, it's pretty huge when they showed up. And however, Six Flags of the Discovery Kingdom first opened in 1968, and then it's Marine World as a small zoo. You know, that's when that started before. And then they have a conversation to build a theme park. You know, theme park has never been showed up for like in the late 90s when they start up. You know what I mean? Six Flags chain, they've been started up since like October 31st when they start up. You know what I mean? Since the 1998. So that's when they got started, and the climate changes that have been going on when Vallejo was a richest city. You know what I mean? Right now it's the brokest city because they spend a lot of money, like around in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. Wow. They spend more time with housing, you know? There is a lot of crazy shit that was been living on, you know? Pretty crazy because there's a lot of people there have a very good addition to rebrand it all together. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy because they have too many seasonal events where they show up. And the rest of it, like golf or different attractions around here in Vallejo, is pretty different, you know? And plus, Vallejo has a lot of recording studios that can be owned around, like Sick with the Records by E40 and all that. It's everywhere because, you know, like recording studios are everywhere in Vallejo when they start up all those, like all the representing all the coordination of the music, you know? Pretty crazy because it's it's super valued when they got the music, especially movies too, because you know movies like any type of films that they've been showing up there, and all of this is just they in the film of Vallejo has been acting crazy when they showed up. You know, it's a little density when you see all of the same old people that have been showed up over and over. You know. And that's what happens when people that they've been living off on all the path. And at the end of the time, I'm sure that there's going to be a new under influence and become like a best city of all time, you know? And well, Vallejo's never been a worst city ever since like when they were have a worst community ever since like the around the since the 70s and 60s. And then they stopped it since the 90s when they started Six Flags. And then that's when it happened, and the rest of the housing's already been spending a lot, so it's pretty crazy because it's they keep them under too much punish for all of the rest of the people they're building it together. You know what I mean? And they have a number one living in the climate for just Vallejo because Vallejo is all about the sunny, cloudy, raining, thunderstorms, and different type of weathers. No wildfires, and Vallejo doesn't have wildfires, so that's good. But we did see some like a lot of weather changes that wasn't around here somewhere. So this is pretty cool, like you get used to it for all those climates when they've been changed up though. It's pretty cool. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. All the percentages in the summertime, they're the highest before, like in the summertime. They were been like the hottest city ever. But a little bit. But you just need to watch the climates that need to leak in. And Vallejo's kind of cold, but I'm sure that it's gonna get warmed up a little bit when it comes out to all the living cities that they're just coming out. Oh, but then Vallejo has been having a curiosity empire for a long time, so I know you have to understand there was a lot of issues with civil rights and living people with black people, living with white people. It's a waste. Hispanics, Latinos don't have the waste of it because they keep increasing a lot because back in those days they were Sureños and Norteños days, and then after that, the violence is still a little bit accruing. You know what I mean? So, and however, it's a large brand when you see the bridge there and then all those compartments like Holiday Inn and stuff. So it's been everywhere when they had to be violated around like the rest of the people. It can be like very dangerous to see all the rest of the people there keep dying and murder each other. And plus an attack in the hood, but because all this goes on about like sexual intercourse and then all those craziness about the people there talking shit and stuff. Shouldn't be doing that. Because Vallejo has like a falterized all those years and when they when they start having hate each other and hate crimes and all those withdrawal stuffs. It could be more worse than how Napa is today. You know what I mean? But we understand Napa is not a family friendly city now because they don't have like the instant future. You know what I mean? But Vallejo does because Vallejo has a new path now. So they're creating the Hispanic Latinos to become the best diverse city ever and the best county ever, and to become like the community service that could be around like the whole people from the entire service because everybody else wants to have that community. Everybody else wants to have that to share it. Like in Vallejo, it's everywhere. But however, well, Soto's families are Sureño families in Vallejo. So hope you have to reach out pretty soon. So just be careful about the rest of the streets that we'll ever talk to and stuff. So the best thing that you can do in Vallejo, just do your best, but for your living, and try make your marksmans to hold on in your arms. It can be lifeless and it could be better. You know what I mean? Just represent yourself and represent your family and represent your own dignity and represent your own health. You know, there's nothing that's gonna harm you or anything when you're living in Vallejo. You know, especially they got a sanitation and all those bad boys livings. You know, they have like the bought all those purchases, all those um for all the rest of their lives for the constructions and housings and stuff. So the housing affordables are like kind of cheap, but still expensive. But not expensive as Napa, but you might get used to all those new accountants for all those housings when they increase. You know what I mean? So you might have to get used to it now because it's a little bit more like a town now. So Vallejo's like everywhere. So hope you could get to understand more like everything what we could. So that's always what we have to do: be responsible and be more respective. You know, sometimes you're gonna have to get used to it for the rest of the people that you want to enjoy the community because you know they're the best outshine people to connect together and communicate together since the 1850s to 1950s. You know what I mean? They were been outshined for a long time when whites they have the best communities ever before black people or Mexicans. They they made the city to turn out violence. You know what I mean? And dangerous. This is what happens when crime rates became really high the whole time. It's like a ghetto vision, you know? Vallejo has been always a ghetto for the whole time since like the single cross years since the 60s to 2000s. And so sometimes 2010s and 20s they incorporate into violence, but especially when they murder Sherman DeRosa. But you have to understand about the bad alarmment for all the rest of the people. They join in geography and all that stuff. Geographic in Vallejo is great, but we just need to make sure there's nothing that can harm at all. But all you do before you go live in Vallejo, before you buy places in the house when you live in there, try make sure get on the detention with everybody else with the people that you notified before. You know, there is a people you had to check the gases, you have to check all those the rest of the people that have been climbing in, you know. There is a lot of issues they're changing in our stuff, you know. There is a lot of issues. So in an open meantime, you have to understand your meaningful timing ways to spark up some things, you know. In order to do that, you have to change your values to in respect to have their loyal and money, and then plus with an interest for all those for the stores and restaurants and stuff. So just try to get used to it for all those good prohibitions for all those good people that are on their property and all those etiquette stuff. So just try to make sure there's no offensive ways you're gonna walk around downtown and stuff. So I know it's a dangerous city, so and plus the brokest city ever today. So I think they're gonna get used to it to come back and become rich later, like in the next 10-20 years. So if Hispanics Latinos have a better community so far, then Vallejo would be the richest city until more than years, and then the populations will go up high pretty soon once the housings are going to be good. So in the future, so I'm expected to see what's going to happen in the future. So let's see what happens at Vallejo. So we'll keep an eye on all those for later. So this is Eagle Eyes to See. Keep it out to sea, keep it real, and thank you for listening to the story of the city of Vallejo. Thank you.